Mr. Chair, we are live.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Brent McIntyre, and I'll be chairing the hearing this evening. Gail Anderson and Lynn Nesbitt are both zooming in. Our assessor for the hearing today is Svetlana Shaba, and our administrative personnel is Nicole Carnegie. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 4 on our docket today, and this is a continuation of the hearing that was held on January 30th, 1 p.m. Boardroom C. For the continuation today, there will be no new evidence or new rebuttal evidence. Ms. Carnegie, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Assessor, please state your full name.
Svetlana Shaba.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Nicole, you're going to have to give me a minute. I seem to have lost the listing on the docket. Hang on.
Yeah, no problem.
You know what? I'm going to have to exit the meeting and go back to my email.
Oh, sure. I can send you off something quickly if you would like.
Okay, sure.
Let me do that. The first item is 180 King Street, if that helps you. And while I send you an email here.
This hasn't happened in a long time.
Okay, so here comes the docket. There we go. Let me know if that works for you, Mr. Chair, or if you want me to send you anything else.
You know what? I'm gonna leave the meeting and come back in.
Okay, sounds perfect.
Okay, sorry about this.
No. Mr. Chair, we are live.
Thank you very much, and I apologize once again. So the first property on the docket is 180 King Street. And is there any preliminary issues with this one, either party? Rocky's not there.
I think I think there is a preliminary issue here. I'm just running some of the numbers right now. I'm not entirely sure if this is a preliminary or what this issue is, but I'm thinking that this might be a requirement for the city to bring in independent counsel. On page 5, the standard finish rents for the taxable portion range between $9.28 and $15.14, the average being somewhere around $13. On page 6, the standard finish average is $9.33.
Well, rather than go on to those details,
Well, let me explain here. It's exempt because it's leased by the city of Winnipeg. So you understand the need for potentially having separate counsel if the city of Winnipeg is demanding a lower assessment for its own portion and not for the rest of the building.
well, let's take a look at page 1 of your brief, because you indicated there the role has been split since the filing of the appeal.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what we're looking at for the split.
So did you file an appeal on the SUP?
This was done administratively because the split was done after we filed.
So the answer is no, you didn't file an appeal on the SUP?
No, the board, I believe the Board of Revision changed it because the SUP had been issued and they notified us that it had been done. So, yeah, I believe it was an administrative change.
Because when I look at your application for this property, the roll number is different than the one you have on the top of your brief.
Right, and we were notified that the SUP had happened, and what the board has commonly been doing is taking, when the SUP's been issued and an appeal has been filed, is rolling it over. So now I don't even know what we're looking at. Now I'm looking at the assessor's work up here. And let's just see, the roll number on this is 39,100. And we had 39,300. We're both at 42,839. My 42,839.
Well, rather than go into details on the briefs, the board's going to take a 5-minute recess.
Sure. And what would be and I'm looking at the new roll 39,100. There was some communication on this as well,
Well, you look up that and we'll take a recess.
right?
Mr. Chair, we are live.
Thank you very much. We'll reconvene the hearing. And the assessor is not here.
I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there she is.
There we go. Yeah.
We'll reconvene the hearing. And the board has deliberated, and we will hear the briefs submitted for 180 King Street and acknowledge that the applicant knew there was a supplementary assessment on this. And Svetlana, you can quickly proceed through this because there is a supplementary assessment on this.
Okay.
Sorry, is there a supplementary that has come out subsequent to this?
I couldn't tell you that.
Oh,
You
I know.
acknowledged that you got this up.
Right, no, but like I'm looking at this roll ending in 100 and it's not on the city's website anymore. Doesn't exist anymore. This is the assessor's roll.
We're just gonna have her read it through, and I suspect you won't have any questions, but that's up to you.
Well, I'm just wondering if we're talking about a dead roll here that, and I don't know what the issue is. I'd just like to know if do we have a live roll here? This 39-100?
No, it's a dead roll, but we don't have any evidence on whatever the new value is. Nobody knows what the new value is.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was wondering. So we don't have that information.
No, you don't have it, and the assessor doesn't have it. Now you can withdraw your appeal.
Yeah. Is it a point of asking the assessor if there was another rule of the physical attributes?
Well, no, we don't have anything before us, so there's no point in that.
Right.
So you have the option to withdraw it.
Just no, I'm just wondering about, just so we understand what's going on here. That's all. I understand what you're saying. A dead horse is a dead horse, but I thought this was resolved, and I'm waiting to hear back from my people as to what was represented to them that was going to happen.
Well, you know what? We have to proceed with this. Like I said, we have to get this hearing done.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Svetlana, you can go through your brief quickly.
Okay. File number 22-2388, roll number 1-30960-391-00, address 180 King Street. We are valuing the property as a stand of January 1st, 2023, based on the economic condition April 1st, 2021. This appeal with respect to the amount of assessed value, classification of property, liability to taxation.
And you just want to go over the property description?
What about classification of property, liability to taxation?
Well, again, Rocky, you don't have any evidence on that, do you?
I'm still not sure where we're at here. I just don't understand this, and I'm just honest here with you. I got no issue, no angles, no nothing here. I don't understand what's happening. Is this role active?
This role is active. In under appeal valuation, classification of property, liability to taxation.
We have no evidence to present on class and liability.
Okay, thank you very much. So you want us to confirm that?
The class and liability, yes.
Okay, Svetlana. Pardon me?
Bram on live, 180 King, what's the deal?
You know what, Rocky, we're moving on. Svetlana, do you want to continue?
Yes. Now, this appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on the evidence in this report, in this assessor's opinion, that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is $2,929,000, and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property office building located in downtown, photo started, subject property has existing leases between $10 and $12 per square foot. On page number 2, air photo of subject property, more photo, street view following on page number 3. I presented 15 rent comparables. They showed mean or average $12.05, in media $12.50. We did assess property on page number 5, taxable income stream for 20,211 square feet, average $9.39. We did apply vacancy loss 12%, 3% expenses, shortfall $10 per square foot, the overall capitalization rate 10.1. It gives us value of this part of building, 1,361,000. On page number 6, exemption portion, 21,398 square feet, average rent $9.34. We apply same vacancy loss 12%, 3% expenses, $10 per square foot a shortfall or occupation of vacant space, and same capitalization rate 10.1%. Give us value, estimate value 1.4 million. On page number 7, another exemption portion, 1,230 square feet and $14.25. We apply same vacancy loss 12%, 3% expenses, shortfall 10%, $10 per square foot, in capitalization rate 10.1%. It gives us summary on page number 8, 2,929,000. On page 11, it's a property assessment notice for same amount, 2,929,000. On page 12, started income expense mailer provided to us for 2020. It's through.
I think that's enough.
Enough, yeah? Okay.
All you need to present. We've read the other part of it. Rocky, any questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to back this up again here. So you read it into the roll, into the record. The appeal is now become part of the record at the Board of Revision. We have a roll the assessor says is live, and we have listed as Colliers International as the applicant. Am I missing something else here?
No, that's about it.
Okay, so we're just carrying on like it's an appeal?
Yeah, and it's based on the 2,900,000 and something, 979, 929.
All right. Yeah, then I do have some questions. Valuation that's done on pages 4 and 5 and 6. Was this all done by the model?
Correct.
Wasn't this cap rate an override?
By model.
Model did it. And why is the rent for the standard finish in the exempt so much lower than the rent for the standard finish in the taxable?
It's average vote selected by the model.
By the model. So, for example, we have 2,430 square feet standard finish at 981 under premise ID 15715, and a very similar size in the taxable portion, 15676, standard finish 2,900 square feet at 1341. Why would the model make a variance of 50%?
If you look on page number 5 and 6, a taxable portion 20,000 square feet and $9.39. On page number 6 is the exemption portion, around 21,000 square feet and $9.34. I don't see difference.
That wasn't the question. I'm comparing a C2 standard finish to another C2 standard finish.
We're looking on average.
The average is skewed by storage
Wall.
space mezzanine in the taxable. I'm looking at the standard finish office. Why is it so much different?
No answer.
Do you not know, or do you just not want to answer? Could you clarify?
I clarify on page number 5 and 6, taxable portion 20,000 less as $10 per square foot, and on page number 6 exemption portion on around 21,000 square feet less as $10 per square foot. It's fair.
Anything else?
I just would ask the same question about the other similar sized parcels, ones at 5,000 feet.
No answer.
All right. These statements, did you review the statements?
Svetlana, that's a yes or no answer.
What type of statements? Could you repeat questions?
Did you review the financial statements that you've put in your report, pages 11 to 15?
On my page number 2, it showed that existing rent between $10 and $12 per square foot. All estimation model generated.
No, the question was a yes or no.
Yes, it's there. We can look into.
That was the extent then. And so was there any consideration given to looking at the actuals on this property?
It's a model generated income, income appraisal, estimate value. And it showed $10 to $12 per square foot. We assess less than $10 per square foot. It's fair.
Now, you saying that the actual there, so the model was less than 10, but that you are including on your page number 5 a fair amount of storage space. Have you been in the storage space?
Chairman, although I have not inspected it, the subject property, I'm able to completely accurately describe it based on the data we have on the file.
Svetlana, it was yes or no.
No.
Thank
Did you estimate the rent on your model on pay for the 60T for the standard finish space? What is that average?
Average $9.39.
I said for the standard finish.
Average for 20,000 square feet, $9.39.
That wasn't the question. I was just asking
It's
about
my
standard
answer.
finish.
It's my answer. $9.39 or $9.33 for
You
example.
disagree
It's
that
very
the
close.
you disagree that the average rent for the standard finish in the 60T is $13.51.
$9.39 for average 20,000 square feet.
Standard finish, I asked. Do you know? Do you?
It's no answer.
Okay.
Hey, Rocky, move on because I don't think you're going to get an answer.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Gail, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Lynn, any questions?
No questions.
And I have no questions. So, Rocky, you can proceed with your brief.
Thank you. On page 1, there's obviously an error in the roll number, and it's our understanding this was cleared up, but there was an earlier submission and an adjournment that happened. We are talking about the same property, so there's no confusion. The statement was relied on, this being a very unique building. It is comprised of 4 rolls on strata titles. The parkade, not included. The Chinese pavilion, I forgot what it's called, 2nd floor. It's a basketball court, basically, not included. And some air rights, which are not included. So this assessment represents floors 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Floor 6 is deemed to be storage because it doesn't have a full ceiling and it's hidden under the pagoda so that it has no windows. It's being used now for a common area for some of the other tenants. There are pictures of the sites, of the physical pictures of the site starting on page 7. Page 8. Page 8 is the retail space. These were taken, I believe, about 3 years ago. After this tenant vacated, this is the quality of the retail space, and you can see quite apparently in fairly poor condition, and to our knowledge, nothing has changed. The ceilings stained, holed, and the walls drywall patched everywhere. This is the quality of the space, and page 11 is shows how the floors and the ceiling have been ripped out in certain places. Page 12 is the hallway on the 6th floor, and I'm going to make sure I get this right. Page 13 is I believe this is the 6th floor. So this isn't being used for anything but storage right now because haven't been able to put people in here. The mechanical for the rest of the building that is not floor 2, for example, which is not in the roll, is located in this section of the building, page 14. So they've lost usable space to that. Now, since we're dealing with rentable space, it's less of a financial issue, but it is does deal with the use of the building. Page 14 is also the 6th floor. This is the inner room, which is used as a meeting room from time to time, and you'll note that it's low ceilinged and the skylights above were put in to get light. It's not getting a good rent. The rent roll for it is shown on in here somewhere. I believe the assessor has put in the rent roll of the site, and you'll note that the reported rents are very one of the issues with this building is that I can't find it. I thought I saw it somewhere. Oh yeah, there we go. It's actually on the assessor's page 16. Is that not all the rents are net rents? They're a mix of rents of gross and net, and some have no tax on it, and that would be the exempt portions, obviously, and some don't recover everything. But of note, if you look at the differentials in the collection of recoverables, that they do vary. The city rents are actually at $10 across the board. It was a lease, and they pay no property tax, and the recoveries are similar to what the other parts of the building pay. So in this case, what we have happening is a $10 rent that the city is paying and is being applied to their site by the city assessor, whereas the other parts of the building are paying similar rents but are being assessed at $15 to $14 a foot. The rent roll, the actual statement is a bit messy because of the amount of vacancy in the building, and as I read it, I'm unable to figure out how we got there, but I believe there's a calculation of the revenue building as full, and then a subtraction of the costs and the net income of 221, which actually includes vacancy. You'll note that vacancy is cited on our page 3 as a less vacancy and free rent. So the the actual NOI would not be represented by what we have, what we're looking at here. We had calculated the vacancy at 22.7% and stabilized it at 17.6 just to account for the momentary nature of it, but the building has suffered from a long-term vacancy. Sorry, I just 1 second. I wanted to look at something here. 97 and my view of this is a bit different than has been shown here. I think that there was a mistake made on the calculation in that the actual vacancy shortfall and other costs had already been taken. This should be an NOI of 273,195, and I would change our value estimate to 273,195, and the assessor's cap rate of 10.1 for our final value. It's a significant increase over what we had said, and reflects that I believe there's an error here in our calculation. This would stabilize the differential between the two sites of it, with a total value of 2,705,000, and a split based on the square footage. No, it would have to be on the weighted for the storage space. I'm just
So does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah, I just want to give you the split of just maintaining the same ratio as before. 2,705 is total, and because the city is occupying most of the better property, the ratio will be skewed in their favor, in exempt favor, and the vacant space is more of the storage space. So the percentage would be similar to what the assessor has, at 53.5% exempt and 46.5% taxable 60T. 2,705 would then be 1,447,000, with taxable being $1,258,000.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Svetlana, any questions?
Yes, please, page number 1. Do you have support evidence for rent? First, do you use site-specific using income expense mailer for your estimation of subject property value, correct?
Yes, I'm using the specific performance of this property.
Let's open page number 3 of your brief. Base rent 4,028,000, correct? And you estimate only 273,000. How is so?
The base rent is a mix of gross and net, and the proper way of reading the statement is to in its totality.
You have $6.18. Let's look on rent. You didn't post it here. Okay, please open page on my brief.
Why are we,
Page
why would-
16 on my brief.
why are we going back to your brief?
Because it's income expense mailer rolls, tenant's roll not presented at agent brief. And
But
he
you
relied
should-
on,
You should be asking questions on his brief.
but he relied on currently lease existing in the subject property. And I didn't come across any lease less than $9 per square foot. And he asking less around $6 per square foot.
Okay, fine. Is that it?
So after agent ask vacancy 17.6%, if you open vacancy spreadsheet on my page 19, it's a full income expense mailer attached to my brief. On page 19 of my brief, they showed vacancy only 10.6%. If you go inside specific why vacancy is applied higher.
Well, all that has changed. I don't suppose you were listening, but I did change the entire amount and based on the actual net operating income. So those numbers are no longer, we're no longer putting them forward. We're putting forward a NOI after all costs of $273,195.
And the board has that information.
If you open page 6 of agent brief, reported NOI 221,000. And you brief only 117,000. Why so? Could you
No,
explain?
he changed, Svetlana,
Hmm?
he changed the net operating income.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you very much. Gail, any questions?
My only question is, you gave us a NOI, Rocky, of 273,195, and
Right.
you've applied 10% cap?
Well,
that
that was the city's cap. I guess my point here was the workup we did, it was error laden, and it was done very early in the year, and then it was resubmitted. And I don't proof these things at all, but I just looked at this now, and I noted that there was a double dip on the vacancy. So we went to the 273, which is, and I'm probably telling you stuff you already figured out. I used page 6, 221, and I added the mortgage interest back in. That is that 273 number. As far as the cap rate was concerned, like I said, garbage in, the whole thing was not done right. So I thought it would be fair to use the city's cap rate because we were always fighting with them about cap rates. But in this case, it's actually, my opinion, better than ours because it's a condominium title, split rights. The person who buys it has to look after the machinery for the other parts of the building. So it's got some undesirable space. My opinion would have been we would have been up there, and if you'll note that that the person who did this was not aware of the machinery issue. I was on a tour with one of the assessors a few years back, so I just I disagreed with the income and I disagreed with the cap. The net effect was a value that was much higher, and I think we're trying to be fair.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for your presentation. Those are all my questions, Mr. Chair.
And Lynn?
I do not have any questions, Mr. Chair.
And I don't have any questions, so that concludes the first property, and I'm going to suggest that we speed it up. The next property in the docket is 300 William, and any preliminary issues? Either party? I'll take that as a no. Okay, Svetlana, you can start your presentation.
File number 22-3034, roll number 13060983500. We are valuing the property as it stands of January 1st, 2023, based on economic condition April 1st, 2021. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on evidence in this report, it is assessor's opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is now at $2,933,000, and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property, its office building, occupied land area of 14,634 square feet, and leasable area 8,612 square feet. On page number 2, air photos of subject property started and follow-up street view on page number 3. The subject property is bank. On page number 4, I presented six evidence of same credit union banks, and they showed the mean or average $29.70 of or media $13.92. The photo of these banks by the end of brief, we did apply $22.02. It's fair for 8,612 square feet. We applied 2% vacancy loss, expenses 3%, shortfall $8 per square foot, a capitalization rate 6.1%. On page number 8, started income expense mailer presented to us. Photos. Okay. So based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property of April 1st, 2021 is $2,933,000. In that, the assessed value, 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Rocky, any questions?
Have you inspected this property?
No, I haven't inspected, but I can describe
No,
subject
yes, sir.
property.
Svetlana,
I
it was
say
yes or no?
no.
Do you know what they do on the second floor?
It's bank.
So is that it? Do you know what they do on the second floor? Are you aware? It's a financial planning office.
Yes, it's Winnipeg Police Credit Union Limited.
Right. So they don't do banking. You're aware they don't do banking on the second floor, that it's financial planning?
Like every bank that has 2 floors, head office on bank on main floor and offices on second floor. Nothing different. It's another type of banks.
Is that what they do at the comparables you have 1 to 6?
I have comparables specific for credit union. On Main Street, 360 Main Street, they rent for $27 per square foot. 360 Portridge, they rent $13.34 per square foot.
Do they do financial
330
planning?
St. Mary Avenue, $20.
Do you know if they do financial planning in these banks, in these sites?
My media, $29.70, and we
Svetlana,
apply
we can
only
read that.
$22 per square foot average.
Well, I just, do you know whether or not these comparables 1 to 6 do banking services, financial planning, or anything else? Do you know what they do in them?
I don't, it's just bank, credit union.
I think that's the only answer you're going to get, Rocky.
All right. Well, number 3 is in my building, and I know they don't have a financial planner there. all of your comparables are in the downtown area, most of them being in the what they call the shed zone. Was there any consideration to the location, the specific location of 300 William in comparison to these?
Subject property located in downtown, all my 6 comparables in downtown as well.
Well, I'm saying downtown's a pretty broad description. Do you think there's different regions of
In
downtown?
our case, we have this discrepancy for downtown and suburban. It's downtown bank and all my comparables downtown.
So are you suggesting that renting in the brand new True North Center would be the same as renting by City Hall?
My comparables credit union in downtown.
Are you saying that
They
they're the
showed
same
median
district?
$13 per square foot. We apply $22. It's fair.
Do the office rents on William correspond to the office rents on Hargrave?
It's a bank. It's not open space.
It's another use. Do other uses follow the same rent?
It's bank. Usually bank much higher rent compared to office space.
And what's your authority on that?
It's how rent showed. That's why we specific have bank comparables.
You have a capitalization rate. Where did this rate, was this all driven by the model?
Correct. If you
On-
open page number 6, our downtown property from 6 to 6.75. It's inside range
Do you,
for
Uh,
60% of properties in
yeah.
downtown.
not what I asked. What,
I don't think you're gonna get your answer, Rocky. And Rocky, you're frozen. Nicole?
Yes, let's see what's going on. He's completely frozen, but it must be on his end. Let me just send him a message here. I'm going to just take him out and put him back in, see if that helps. Yeah, it looks like Mr. Neufeld lost his connection completely. Mr. Chair, can we take a 5-minute recess so that I can contact him?
Certainly.
Thank you.
And do you want to put the assessor in the waiting room?
Yes. Mr. Chair, we are live.
We lost Rocky.
Oh, okay. Just make sure. Mr. Chair, we are live.
Thank you very much. We'll reconvene the hearing this evening. And Rocky, I believe when we went offline, you were raising some questions of the assessor for 300 William.
Yes, that's correct. My next question was going to be if the model has a specific cap rate for banks.
I don't know.
What category then would it go into on page 6?
We have applied a 6.1% capitalization rate for downtown, and our city chart showed between downtown property between 6% to 6.75%. It's all it's inside this range for 60% of the property of downtown.
Which category are you speaking of?
If you open my capitalization rate table, our downtown property, 60% of property downtown between 6% and 6.75%. The subject property, 6.1%.
Right.
It's fair inside this range.
Which row are you speaking of?
I talk about subject property. Subject property model generated 6.1%. It's inside city range between 6% and 6.75%.
I know. I'm trying to see what range this is. This office? Is this retail?
Property type, it's downtown property.
Downtown office?
Yes, it's office property.
Okay.
All offices appeal under today. I represent office space.
So what you're saying is that's at the lower end of the range of the downtown office. Is that correct?
6% and higher, low 6.75%.
But at
The
6.1.
model generates 6.1%. It's inside this range. It's fair.
All of your rents are in office buildings, are they not?
All my rent bank, credit union banks on Main Street, on Portridge, on Hargrave, downtown properties.
But they're all inside office buildings, large office buildings.
It's not relevant. We assess the rent for
Do you know,
bank. Rent
do you
bank.
know if they are all inside
No
office?
answer.
Okay. Do you have any rents for freestanding financial institutions?
I presented rent in downtown. We're talking for subject property of a bank at downtown. All my 6 comparable downtown credit unions.
Are your
Rocky, I don't think you're going to get your question answered.
Yes, but does that mean that it's been understood what I was looking for? I suppose that's always what's troubled me. Very well. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Gail, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And Lynn?
Yes, I have a question. We've heard some questions that suggest this property at 300 William Avenue has 2 floors. Do any of these banks on your comparables have 2 floors?
I don't know.
Okay, and I'll try to ask the question that Mr. Neufeld was asking. The property at 300 William is a separate building. It's a standalone building. Are any of your comparables standalone buildings?
It's not, I don't have in downtown.
Okay, thank you.
Because usually standalone building, it's owner occupied.
Yes, is this
That's
owner
why we don't
occupied?
have, that we don't have, yes,
Okay,
it's
Is-
occupied, it's by tenant. Tenants, it's, you can see that owner, Winnipeg Police Credit Union Limited. It's occupied by the owner, and all my
Okay.
comparables credit union as well in downtown. It's best what I found exists.
okay, no, thank you, I appreciate that. You answered the same question I had about cap rate, that it's falling within the office downtown. Would you consider this a downtown A building?
It's I showed that downtown A and B between 6% and 6.75%.
I'm looking at your range for downtown A buildings. The range for the 20th to 80th percentile is 6.
Because for downtown 8, if you look on our capitalization rate table, only 6%. In downtown B, 6.75. So I
Okay,
showed range all downtown property between 6 and 6.75%.
Okay, that's great. Would you consider this closer to a downtown A building or a downtown B building?
It's between.
It's between? Can you please
it's
clarify
bank.
how it's
It's
between?
bank, it's downtown bank. And to
Okay.
create this range for 16% of the property downtown, we analyze all existing sales.
Okay,
So I rely on our cap rate because it's statistical approval all on by using existing numbers, not analyzing existing statistical study.
thank you. Mr. Chair, I have no additional questions.
Thank you very much. Gail, did I ask you?
Yes, you did. Thanks.
And I have no questions. So Rocky, you can proceed with your presentation.
He's muted.
Oh, Rocky, you're muted.
I was really starting up good there too. This is the Winnipeg Police Credit Union, which was built across the street from the Public Safety Building. And we all know that that's been demolished. So the site is now redundant. They have opened a new branch on the 2nd floor of the old post office on Graham. And they're seeing some of their services being moved over there. At the present time, they've made no plans to change matters. But as a police credit union, it is redundant, and again, it only ever served one purpose. This has a restricted membership. Now, there are broad methods to get in if you have a family member who served in public safety or in the military. They do allow a broad range of people. There's no real restrictions, but it has always been intended to serve the police forces. As a result, the nature of this has changed a bit. Their downsized their operations. The first floor was designed to be a typical credit union where people could come in and administer their banking needs, and the second floor was for financial planning. So this would be where the members of the police force could go and take their civic pension plans and work them in with registered retirement plans, and as all good civil servants do, figure a way out to get the highest pension they could from their times of service. I'm saying that because it's just what civil servants do, and no, I'm not making any negative on it. It's the nature of this. So what's happened in the meantime, as they diverted services, they've seen more of the regular banking switch over to the new site, and this has been more of a financial planning operation. They still operate a cash machine, and there are still tellers, but it's become a secondary use. The primary use is not banking; it's financial planning. So it would be more of an office. The building, the rents we looked at, and there's a great picture, page 2. I'm sure everyone's familiar with it. It is a fairly interesting building. Inside, it's done like a normal credit union. Absolute best comparable, 100% by far, 230 Portage Avenue, Great Western Bank. 2-story, freestanding. The rent on the upper levels is $18. They do have a usable basement, which the rent would then be $11.99 if one were considering the basement square footage. But we're not going to do that because generally basement is added on space. So you do have the two numbers, $18 if considering just the uppers, $12 with all the space. Obviously, you can figure out the rent is $6 a floor. Well, no, wait, that's the math. Comparing it to using the $18 does produce a higher rent. The next one, which is another fabulous rent, this is North Portage, 317 Donald, the Winnipeg Civil Servants Credit Union, not credit union, pension management, I'm sorry. They are in this building. They occupy 16,000 square feet. Their rent is $15.50 a square foot. This is the same service that is offered to the police credit union members a block away. And again, North Portage, we have more of the locational attributes that the subject has. There are a few other ones that we brought up, institutional uses, the WHA. Now that's a build to suit rent at $16, and the existing site in a construction add-on at $19.25, and 650 Main, another build to suit for an institutional user, $18.54 a square foot, and those ones are build to suit, so they're going to be higher rents because they're cost recoveries. The rest of the stuff was just put in well, ignore the next couple of pages. In terms of, so we ended up back on page 1 with the rent of $18, and like I said, I don't think anyone can find a better comparable in the Canadian Western Bank in terms of physical attributes, and locationally, it is superior because it's a half block off Portage and Main. But the subject has land, so it's a bit of a trade-off there. Canadian Western's got better location, subject has better land, and that, I think that we'll call that even in terms of quality. Vacancy is we looked at office as well because that is the predominant usage in the building as of now. The Johnson report has an overall rate of 9.9% for the city. The specific, this would be, I'm not sure if I would call this a Class C. The person who wrote this penciled it in as a Class C, and that might be fair. It is a D or a miscellaneous, but it does have some quality that's better. So you may want to consider it in the C's. It's not big enough to be in the C's. basically, A's and B's have got to be 400,000 square feet to be considered, and C's are smaller, better buildings, generally in 150,000 square foot range, or in there close to it, and below that are the D's and the miscellaneous. But on the basis of the C, which is now in the Johnson report at 20.2%, we have an average rate, a blended rate on those two of 15.05%. We do this in order to mitigate any sample size issues with the vacancy rate. One is more specific, being the Class C, and one is general, being the whole city. But to put this in perspective, the actual vacancy rate for investment properties, which are non-owner occupied, that's investment, and they're sold for their rate for return, is now hitting 17.7% at this time in Winnipeg. Be clear, you're going to hear this in the summation. Things in office are getting worse, not better. Every single property is down in income. Every single office property is increased their vacancies. Values have dropped, and they're continuing to drop as interest rates rise. Now, that is post the reference period, but if you're in the know, you knew what was happening. We knew before April 1st, 21, what was going to happen with interest rates, and so did all investors. On my page 43, I think it is. I should have this memorized. It's always the same. No,
what document are you on?
My report, page 49.
There's only 14 pages in your report.
What?
There's 14 pages in your report.
We had submitted a 49-page document. I think we ran into this problem before with all the adjournments and the filing dates. At that time, the board said just carry on, enter it verbally, and you do have a copy of this document, and it's somewhere else. It hasn't been presented to you because of the adjournment.
Was it included in the rebuttal evidence last Monday?
Yeah, it was all in there. It had been submitted. We went through this report.
Yeah, we've gone through it now.
Yeah, so okay, I'm gonna, with your consent, I'm just gonna carry through what has been presented and is missing verbally because it's short. There have been no investment sales in the last few years because the market has stalled, and there are no rates because people are holding and no one is selling. And our cap rate has a few scattered cap rates, actuals. Most of it is a census of industry users, buyers, vendors, and a review of what the expected rates are, and also looking at rates across the country. And you've heard in evidence dozens of times the city has no cap rates to show you either. That's the problem we both have. But we do have declining income and an increasing vacancy rates to show you. And that is an indication of the poor performance of the office sector in the last 2 years. This change is mostly going to be permanent. And I'm going to just say this once, and I really would like you to bear this in mind. I've been having discussions with our office people and about the concept of assessments on office while they're struggling to rent them at minimal rates, which they're barely getting. One thing we should all bear in mind is we should look at this anecdotally. Everybody who's sitting on this hearing today is not doing it from a hearing room. Now, part of that is because we're at 5 o'clock, but part of it is because we've all migrated to working from home. And what that's happened in the world of office has changed the equation. Everything is changing. There will be a shift in the use of office, and us professionals here, when one horse stops running, we jump for the other horse, and that'll be a change in use. So we are seeing multiple properties going multifamily, and we see other uses being considered. One of the properties today you're going to hear about, it's being repurposed as well, no longer viable for an office. This is what's happening in our market. And it's something that the assessment department model can't take into account because they don't have the data to prove it. We are struggling here to put people in buildings and get good rents. And that's just what's happening. So going back to, I guess, the few pages you do have, we're the 15% vacancy is real and it's increasing. And in terms of non-recoverable costs, our study, which you've heard of 100 times by now, 400 times,
Or more.
of 100 properties shows a mean and median of 7% and 9% respectively. These happen. Follow the money when you're looking at a statement, because the market does. And it's not an assessed value that determines market value. It's willing seller, willing buyer, and what they will pay. So we include the non-recoverables. Our NOI is then at 107,403, capped at 7.25. Our concerns on this is that had the public safety stayed, there probably would have been a good continued usage for this in some capacity or another. But right now, I'm looking at the shoe store behind it and thinking they probably want a new, nicer building to sell their shoes in, might be its future use. And that's the Exchange District. Unless it gets bulldozed for a multifamily project, nothing really is happening in the Exchange District. And so that's a locational issue. It is a small sized building, and no matter what anyone says, small equals bad in investment. Bigger property. You didn't get the Johnson report excerpts, did you?
I think we've all seen it.
Okay. And just to point out that Class A and B, as I mentioned before, are all large size buildings because it's spread the risk and reduce the risk and lower cap rate. This is small. One vacancy is 100%. And so those are the factors that led us to push it. Those factors I just mentioned probably went about a half point difference, 3/4 of a point difference from what cap you should have expected with a better location. That's then my presentation. Yes.
Thank
you very much. Svetlana, any questions?
Please. I have your brief 14 pages. I never received any else brief. It's owner occupied and you would like have high vacancy. Is something wrong with buildings that will be never occupied?
Well, that's what I just said as I was going through it. They're repurposed. They're looking at well, they downsized their operation. They don't need the space anymore. They got a new site because their client moved.
Do you have a support evidence to show it us?
He just told you they moved.
I think it's obvious. You don't need to have support you could go look at Google Street View. They're inside the new police building on Graham, 2nd floor. On the sky.
No further questions.
Pardon me?
No further questions. I don't know anything about move.
Gail, any questions?
No, I have no further questions. Thanks for your presentation.
And Lynn?
No, I don't have any other questions either.
And I don't have any other questions. So the next property on the docket is 310 Broadway. Any preliminary issues with this one, either party? I take that as a no?
No, not a preliminary, no.
Svetlana?
No.
Okay, Svetlana, you can start with your presentation.
File number 22-2378, roll number 12092530000. We are valuing the property as a stand of January 1st, 2023, based on the economic condition April 1st, 2021. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on evidence in this report, in this assessor's opinion, that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is 7,969,000, and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property office building is a subject property has existing leases on page number 2. It's a total occupied 51,145 square feet. Leases between from $8.70 to $19 per square foot, what reported to us. Subject property income expense in air photos presented on page number 2. We follow up on page number 3. I presented 59 comparables of similar type of space with 3 years before reference days, all leases in 3 years. In our study showed that this total area 353,000, average $13.08 for all existing properties. We did assess the subject property at 53,919 square feet at $13.86. We did apply 12% vacancy for similar property of C. Expenses 3%, shortfall $10 per square foot, recapitalization rate 7.2%. So our estimate market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is 7,969,000, and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Rocky, any questions?
Yes, I'm just looking at the square footage. You have 2 areas on your first few pages where you call it 51,143, yet your workup is at 53,990. Why is there a variance?
I'm looking in income expense mailer.
That's on the variances between page 2 and page 1, correct, Rocky?
Yes, and also page 15, which is from the owner.
I haven't got that far down yet.
So I don't know. Our record showed 53,990, and we assess 53,990. I did mistake when I posted existing leases, I guess. Something I cannot support. I don't see it.
So what are you saying is the right number?
Okay, let's open page 14 when income expense mailer started. It's look like I posted everything what they showed us. So if you open page 15, total 51,149 square feet.
44.
So I don't know about vacant. Some mistake here. But they have a lot of vacancies. Other parking. So I can see it is 51,145 on page 15. Our record shows the gross floor area 16,540 square feet. Our record count 53,919 square feet. What in our estimation of market value of subject property.
Okay, so which one are you planning on relying on?
I reliant of model generated 53,919 square feet.
And when was the last time an assessor was in the building?
I don't know. into.
On your page,
310
two,
Broadway.
who did this workup on page 2?
It's I try to do what showed us income expense mailer.
So this is your workup?
Yes, I can do mistake because I very short on time to prepare brief. It could be
Well,
mistake.
your workup equaled what the owner supplied, didn't it?
Yeah, usually I try to show it and analyze income expense mailer provided to us.
And what is the actual vacancy rate? Did you calculate it?
No,
Would you agree it's about 80%?
yes, it showed a lot of empty space.
And the workup on page 6, can we assume this was done by the model?
Correct. Usually vacancy analyzed 10 years. Our vacancy accounts at one time in 10 years, building can be completely empty or lose big tenants because it's spread across 10 years. It can be zero vacancy, but we still apply vacancy number. So it's in 10 years to account for it.
The tenant that moved out, you didn't put their rent in, did you? The 41,000 feet?
I just count what presented to us on income expense mailer. It's normal tenants move out and move in.
And where does the capitalization rate fit in on your table on page 8?
It's 7.2%. It's outside 60% of the properties.
So I'm just looking for the description. This is OFC, is that correct? C class?
Yes.
Okay.
It's model generated. I say our range. It's only for 60% of the property, but we have outliers. But it's normal.
And in the statement, it appears to me like the owner is saying the NOI is about $245,000. Did you review the statement?
Let's look on my page number 7. We estimate potential rent 748,000, and on page number 7 it's revenue showed 718,000, and you look net revenue 915,000, and now net revenue only net operating income, so sorry, 5,073,000.
This okay, well, that wasn't what I asked, but the I'm asking about the number at the bottom of page 13.
Page 14. I talk about page number 10. Page number 10 presented on my page number 7 showed
He's
about
asking about
total
page-
revenue.
Svetlana is asking about page 13 of his brief.
His brief, he didn't
No,
present
no,
yet.
no,
No?
I'm asking page 13 of her brief.
Oh, of her brief, sorry.
Let's
where
open
the-
page 13 on my brief.
The net income is 143,000, and I was adding back in the mortgage interest. And I asked her if she looked at the 245,000 that the owner earned this year.
Professional debts, total expenses. We have a net operating income, but we have to put back. Okay, we have net operating income 143, 466. We need to put back mortgage interest 102,643, 16. We need to put back leasing commission 12,315.92 plus tenants improvements 15,986.52 plus deficits. Okay, we came across 274 at least net operating income.
Okay, so 274 we'll call it, and that compares to your model's net income of 573,000. So it's over twice as over half, less than half of what the model does, right?
It's average. A model count. I say we count vacancy average for this typical building, and we use usually 12%. But it's analyze all similar building. It's model generated market income and estimate value.
All right, on page 7 at the bottom, you've mentioned this before. You're saying base rent gross potential 719,000. That is, of course,
it's a net revenue. You can ignore this.
Well, I was just going to ask you
income.
if you're aware that the major tenant was on a gross lease.
According income expense smaller. Let's look what type of leases exist. It started on page number 14. Units 100, it's net lease.
No, I
gross
meant
lease
tenant.
$22.98, but
looking
net
in the
lease
wrong spot,
$16.
I think we want to speed this up. You're looking in the wrong spot. I already said to you the tenant that vacated, so they're not in the rent roll. But were you aware that base rent potential, which was listed here, is based on a gross lease basis?
It's not listed at all.
Well, now it's not. When the calculation was made, were you aware that it was based on a gross lease basis?
Yes, if you look on page number 10, base rent gross potential.
Okay, good. All right. Yes, one more question here. On the income statement, parking rent. Is there parking on the site?
They generate parking rent.
So is there any parking available on the site?
We don't estimate parking.
Well, I just wondering
We
if
just estimate rent.
Okay. So this statement, you're aware it includes a parking lot on Hargrave Avenue that's not on the tax roll?
We don't talk about parking. We don't calculate parking. It's just a strictly office building located on land area 8,523 square feet.
Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Gail, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Lynn, any questions?
I do not have any questions, thank you.
And I don't have any questions either. So Rocky, you can proceed with your brief.
Okay, I'm just going to try to find the one you've got because I don't think there's a major difference. Just so I stay on the page here. So you've got an 18-page brief.
Just a minute.
Yes, that's what I have, Mr. Neufeld.
Okay. That's the one
yeah.
I have.
Okay, nothing differs in here really. So the property was impacted by the loss of a major tenant of the Federal Department of Justice. They had 5 floors and their lease expired and they moved out. That's what we're looking at as our problem today. That's why the statements are so poor. Going to page 3, the other thing to point out is underlined in red is parking rent. That's for a lot on Hargrave, and actually the assessor's got a better picture of it on the assessor's page 2. Where the subject building is, there's a parking lot behind it, and to the west, that parking lot has right now in the picture 3 cars parked on it, 2 parallel to Hargrave and 1 perpendicular to it. So this lot was purchased to accommodate 310 Broadway, the parking requirement for Federal Department of Justice. And so any income that's attributed to the subject for parking is not building income. The way we looked at this with a very huge vacancy and obviously the income, which doesn't matter which way you want to look at it, is under 300,000 net income, was we traveled back to happier times when the place was full, and the calculation of net income is 610,000 because that's what no, that's not right. That's a gross number. I've got to get new people here.
It's a little late in the cycle, isn't it?
Come on, it's the second last day. I got one more kick at it.
Well, let's move on.
Okay, but essentially, I mean, I'm reading the statements, and there's 300,000 in recoveries and 600,000 in costs. So the actual potential is not 610; it's much lower than that. However, we're not going to make any change there. The vacancy, which was calculated again, is in error. Well, not in error. The justice departed halfway through the year. So I think that's the reason for the mix-up. And instead of having an actual 80% vacancy, the cash vacancy was lower at 27%. And we've stabilized it with office and Class C, so we're going to use 19.2. The magic number here is that the minute you hit a 25% vacancy, you're lost your highest and best use. So anything below that amount would never be utilized. It ends up after our calculations for non-recoverables and shortfall at an NOI of 388,000. You've already heard from the reading of the statement. The assessor says, well, maybe it looks like it's 270,000. Fine. So what we're saying is we're still over the actual income from that year. The cap rate at 7.75%, and that is actually much too optimistic because the vacancy that's coming is going to be 80%, but I'm not changing anything because we'd have to refile there. And but this building is a perfect example of declining income and increasing vacancy rates in the downtown area. Broadway in particular has been a difficult area. To put this in perspective, the NOI applied is 388,000. And as we were trying to stabilize this, we looked at the historical performance, and the best of times it was 428,000. That dates back to 2014. The last 2 cycles, it was at 388,000. So our decision was, let's put that number in for now, because the vacancy at this point in time had not been fully manifested, and there was still a chance for getting a tenant. So our take on this is that this would be a very optimistic outlook. Now, since the time that it's gone dark, the building was sold, and you won't find the sale anywhere because it was a share sale. It's being repurposed to teaching institution, seminary of learning. We are in the midst of applying for the school tax exemption on it. And so this is just a work in progress. So the Sundance College owns it, and they have one floor now. And until COVID hit, they had contemplated doing up to 5 floors of classroom. But with COVID, of course, no classrooms, everything was distance. So they just put all their plans on hold, and they're going to wait and see what happens with their operations, if they're going to continue distance or become an actual physical school. And so this is a double impact. Firstly, losing your major tenant and the market not backfilling it, and second, a sale that could have mitigated the loss ended up being killed by COVID on space restrictions and people restrictions. I think the number we've presented here is, there's the sale of all the office buildings on the page 16 that I was referring to earlier. That's every office that's sold. There's nothing there. There's no activity. That's what I was referring to. And on pages 17 and 18 is our non-recoverable reports. So the statements indicate the assessor's opinion, 270,000, my opinion, 245,000. Who cares? We're using a higher number, 388,000. That's the only change we've really made is the vacancy rate. And then of course the cap rate, which again, should be higher for the impending loss, but we're going to keep it at 7.75. The calculations, I see what he's done there. Okay, well, in any regard, that's a bit flawed, but he's made the same mistake. I just bounced off the assessor. He's forgotten this is a gross building. But overall, I think we should still support that number, because there's going to be some value somewhere. I think we're looking at a long-term hold and refill and a repurposing, and essentially what we've got here is a shell building that's worth $100 a foot. And that's the way I would look at it. That's my presentation.
Thank you very much. Svetlana, any questions?
You have stated that buildings are already fill in, correct?
No, no, they attempted, they had a plan for it, but it didn't happen. They had hoped for it.
No further questions.
Thank you very much. And Lynn, any questions?
Yeah, I do. And I'm sorry, Mr. Neufeld. I'm trying to write notes and I don't always catch what you're saying. Your NOI, I think you indicated, you did say it's higher than what was reflected on the INE, but you said that it is a stabilized NOI. You took a look at the last few years.
Yeah, this is work I did very early this morning, and when I came in to review these properties and made sure that we were, we've got a really bad year here, and I looked at 2014 428,000, 2016 and 2018 both came in at 388,000, so we went with 388,000.
Okay.
To stabilize.
Okay, thank you for that. And there's been quite a bit of discussion on the vacancy. Can you just speak to how the vacancy has changed over the last few years? Has it, at what point was it full? Maybe that's not a fair question. Maybe it was never full, but at what point was there acceptable vacancy, and
right.
When did it start to go up?
Well, that when I looked at it this morning, I traced back to 2014, which would be the 2016 tax year. That was at a point where the justice was full, and they had and I'm just opening it up now. I just double check the vacancy rate on here. Yeah, 452,000, I misspoke. And at that point, on the statement,
I guess maybe we can simplify it. Just over the last few years, do you have on hand what the vacancy rates have been?
that's what I'm just looking up
Yeah,
now.
okay.
And
Just wondering if this is a stabilized or.
right. Okay, I've got the forms here in front of me. So the 2013 was basically full. Yeah. And yeah, it was full. And then the following year was Public Works. Yes, was full. So that's 14 was full. 15. Okay, so 15 had a smaller vacancy of let's see, 15 divided by 2%. Now I'm not sure which one I'm going to get next here. I think I've jumped 2 years to 2017. And our vacancy then was, that's when the big hit happened. One of the big hits happened. So it's jumped to 15% that year. The loss of unit 200. So that would be 5,700 square feet out of 51,144. So that was yeah, 11%, and that as of April 2018 was that one, and then the next change that happened was when Public Works moved out. So at that point, Unit 2 was vacant, and Unit 200, I should say, and then it remained vacant, and Public Works vacated. So April 1st, 2018 was the first indication, 11% moving to 80% 2 years later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Neufeld, for looking that up for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Where am I now? Okay, Gail?
I have no questions. They've been asked and answered. Thanks.
And Rocky, if you go to page 1, you've got a statement there, long-term vacancy, 27.49% of potential rent in 2020. That is correct?
Well, you know, I just wanted to check one thing on the 18 statement to see the expiry date for Public Works. Public Works expired July 31st, 2019, but there was a holdover of a year, I believe. So I think they actually vacated July of 2020. So in that respect, the 7/12 of the year was paid rent, and 5/12 of the year was at 80%. And just quickly reading that, so the statement, the rent roll, I just wanted to check the date. The rent roll was printed. See if it coincides with, yeah, there we go. As of the rent roll the assessor put in is as of December 31st, 2020. So the 27% was based on Public Works doing a holdover till July of 2020.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. I just make sure we're presenting this as accurately as possible.
Okay, that was my only question, so that concludes this property.
Well, I just want to say on that note briefly, though, that the holdover gave the owner an extra year of opportunity to try to lease the space out, which did not happen. So it is an impact to the market.
Okay.
And it happened during the beginning of COVID. So it's obvious that we had bad forces at work, lack of a better word.
Okay, thank you very much. And we're now dealing with the last property, 396 Assiniboine. Any preliminary issues? Either party?
Nope.
Take that as a no from both parties. Okay, let me just bring it up. And Svetlana, you can start your presentation.
File number 22-3270, roll number 120-9271000. We are valuing the property as a stand of January 1st, 2023, based on the economic condition April 1st, 2021. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on the evidence in this report, it is assessor's opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is $1,930,000, and that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property office building located neighborhood Broadway, Assiniboine. On page number 2, I posted subject property leases what provided to us. We can see it's 2 units occupied together 10,000 square feet, and they pay gross rent $240,000. It showed us gross lease $24 per square foot, and usually 40% it's occupation cost. It will be, if you apply 40%, it will be net lease, estimated net lease $14.14 per square foot. The subject property located, it's northwest of the city. It's on page number 3. More subject property photo in View Street. We did apply for 10,000 square feet, $13.09. For this type of property, vacancy was 11%, expenses 3%, shortfall $8 per square foot, capitalization rate 5.4%. On same page, I presented six lease comparables in downtown. It's 155 4th Street, was rent in 2017 around 5,000 square feet for $12.30. 2017, it should be 4 years upward time adjustment. 226 Osborne, a lease from 2016. It was expired in 2021 for $16. Another lease on same building in 2017 over 3,000 square feet at $14. Another lease for comparable number 4, 250 York Avenue. Lease is 2017, 3.5 thousand square feet at $16.43. Comparable number 5, 387 Broadway. Lease is 2019, 5,750 square feet at $26.78. Number 6, comparables 183 Kennedy Street. Lease is 2020, 6,200 at $14.52. So our mean $16.64 and our media $15.26. We did apply $13.09 for 10,000 square feet. It's fair. So based on evidence, Entities report the estimate value of subject property as of April 1st, 2021 is 1,913,000. And that the 2023 assessed value should be confirmed.
Thank you very much. Rocky, any questions?
Yes, the valuation on page 4, was this by the model?
It's mass appraising model generated estimation.
And this is OFS and you've got 5.4%. I don't see any rates that low in your chart. I was wondering if this is an override or why would it be so low?
You talk about capitalization rate.
Yes, I am.
It's generate 5.4%. And our capitalization rate between 6 to 6.75, but it's only 60% of the property. This property was 5.4% in statistical prove it.
On that page 6, it says that rates are supported by comparison with market reports from Colliers, Seabury, and Cushman, but none of them are as low as 5.4. Is that statement correct?
It's statement correct because it's range. For example, Colliers 5.5 to 6.75, and we did 5.4.
I'm sorry, you're reading from downtown A. You've already said that this is OFS, which would be inferior.
It's in downtown between 6 and 6.75. So it's 5.5 outside this range because this range only 60% of the property.
On page 2, you have subject property leases. I don't see a value there.
If you open page number 8, where leases show that they on page number 8 we see rent 214,000, and you see no recoveries. It's a gross lease. And on page number 9 we see posted only two tenants by 5,000 square feet. If you divide to 214,000 by 10,000, it shows $24 per square foot. It's gross lease. We have to take out 40% for accommodation or accommodation cost. Yeah, it will be estimated $14.40 per square foot net rent.
Under the column on page 9, marked monthly rent, why does it say 0 then?
Because it's what reported to us.
Okay. In that same...
You would like, I can ask for not confirmation.
If on that same page under the column marked owner occupied, it's checked off as owner occupied, isn't it?
No, it's leases.
There's a check mark in owner occupied. There's also on page 8 in the category owner occupied a check mark under fully, correct?
It's owner, it's a 396 Assiniboine Limited, and we can see two different properties: Winnipeg Chartered Accountants and Polar Leasings. It's a completely different name. It's two tenants. Also, if you open last page of my brief number 10, we can see one of tenants, owner 396 Assiniboine, and tenants Polar Leases Limited. So it's two tenants.
So you're saying that when they check mark that they're owner occupied, you can disregard it because of your own investigation?
Because it's mistake. It's fully occupied.
As by the owner, correct?
I count it's like mistake.
Did you
It's
try to
happened.
contact them and ask them that?
Yes, if you open page number 10 on permits, occupation permits,
Right.
it's clearly showed that owner 397 Assiniboine Limited and tenants Polar Leasing Limited.
Now,
It's clear that it's tenants occupied space.
Dara Quinn is the guy who hired me, and he's the owner. So I'm wondering, did you contact Dara and ask him?
I don't have to, I not.
Well, you know, but you made a mistake, don't you see?
It's a show that tenants completely different name. It's
Well,
tenants occupied space.
if you're ignoring what they say,
Do-
what's the point of using the income and expense forms?
It's showed us that this building 10,000 square feet and generate 214,000 gross income.
Does the space, the two floors, are they demised from each other?
And plus, very important for us on page number 9, annual expenses, how we estimate our shortfall, our expenses. So it's very important information for us.
Are the two units, the two floors, demised from each other?
It showed by 5,000 each.
But are they demised, physically demised? Do you know?
The answer is yes or no, Svetlana.
It's yes, because if you look on page number 9, first line, it's floor number 1, lease and second tenants, floor number 2. They on separate floor by 5,000 square feet.
Is there a door between the floors?
It should be. It's 2-floor building.
Well, is there? Do you
One
know?
tenants occupy main floor and second tenants occupy second floor.
Have you inspected it to determine if it's demised?
No answer.
Has any consideration been given for this location, which is somewhat off the downtown area? Does the model say, well, we're on fringe of downtown, there might be a different rate, or is it just all downtown?
We apply for model generating $13.09 and my sex comparable showed $15.26 median. So it's
if the property were as I'm stating to be one single tenant, one owner, and you put in the rent, the floor area in the model at 10,000 feet total, would the number generated be lower?
no answer.
Do you not know for sure?
I don't talk about it.
Well, okay.
Rocky, I don't think you're going to get an answer.
Well, I know. I'm just doing this for the record.
If you look on page number 4, main floor estimate $13.90 and second floor a little bit less, $12.28.
I just wanted to see one last thing here. So you haven't seen the building. I may have gone over that a bit too quickly. You haven't been out to see the building, have you?
Not. I just drive by, walk by.
Were you aware of any impact to the property foundation due to the building being constructed next door?
I don't know.
Did you hear anything about?
I don't know.
I'm asking a different question. Did you hear anything about the foundation for this building being located in the neighbor's property?
I didn't find any permit showed structure problem.
Well, I'm not saying that you would see a permit, but I'm just wondering if you heard anything.
Because you see permits on page number 10, I look at existing permits, so no structure problem with this building. It would be recorded.
No, you don't record structure problems. You record the repair.
Yes, it will be part of permits.
Only if you repair it. Okay, so but you don't know the answer.
I didn't come across any problem with this building.
All right, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Gail, any questions?
Just in regards to the cap rate of 5.40. Just wondering why the cap rate appears so much lower than the other buildings.
Because this property outside 60% of statistical and model analyze all existing sales and close areas.
So what would warrant, like what type of characteristics would warrant the low cap rate, I guess is what I'm trying to get at with regards to the type of building.
For cap rate estimation, it's model generated, it's statistical. I cannot explain here.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Lynn?
Yes, I have a question on the vacancy rate. It's 11%. It's high compared to what we've seen for other properties. Well, you haven't spoken of any issues with relation to this property and a vacancy. Could you please explain why the 11% vacancy?
It's a good example when we see it's a 0% vacancy, but may apply still 11%, because in 10 years, we will apply each year some vacancy, because in 10 years, one of tenants can move out and building can be full or half empty. So it's to be consistent.
No, I'm sorry, I don't understand your explanation. Is the building got vacancy issues, existing vacancy issues?
It's a it's a full occupied building, but model generate 11%.
So it's a model generated vacancy of 11% because why would it the model generate an 11%?
For example, previous subject property model generate 12%.
Yes, and it
Because
had well-known vacancy issues.
Yeah, by analyzing income expense similar, how it is statistical approval 11% for this subject property.
Okay, and so I am looking at the I&E, the expense mailer. It refers to total leasable area of 10,000 square feet. And you have indicated that there's 2 tenants, each taking 5,000 square feet. So I guess I'm not understanding the vacancy.
Because vacancy, it's average for 10 years on similar properties in this area, this type of building.
So for OFS buildings?
No, for specific, for a subject property model generate 11.
Okay, thank you. No additional questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, and I have no questions. So, Rocky, we're down to your brief.
Yeah, I just gave Visa the warning that she might be able to leave on time. She was bugging me all day about it. The building is on the banks of the Assiniboine, and just historically, at one point, it was built by an architect years ago, and at one point there was a pool in the backyard, which of course was not economically viable to maintain. They did fill it in. Current occupant is an accounting company. They own it and they use it all 10,000 feet. I've known them for several years, and I do a lot of work for them in my other occupation. They have a kind of an interesting specialty practice, which is quite enjoyable work I find to do with them, non-tax work. And I know all the principals there. So the building itself never was demised by floors, because the architect who designed it wanted this open concept to prevail through the building. So there are some glass partitions, but it's open. One of the problems with that is when Dara contacted me, and I'm going to give you the right date on that. It was March April 4th, April 3rd. I'm trying to read the 4 and the 3, whichever. Anyways, either March 4th or April 3rd, 2020. Were thinking of closing off one of their units and attempting to work at home, and they wanted to put it on the some of the space on the market to lease. So we went and attempted to do it. We spent about a year marketing it, and didn't get any takers. And the biggest problem was the undemised space, because you weren't getting your own private space. You know, you're going to share the washrooms and share the facilities and the stairwell. There was no door. It's an open stairwell. There was nowhere to put a door. And if you did put one in, then you'd have to demise off the reception area. You lose space. And it's an interesting building, but unless you used it all, there was no interest in doing it. And our asking was 12 and no takers. So that's one of the reasons verbally I can tell you that we steered at 11. And when the person who wrote this asked me what I should put on it, I said 11, because that's what we had tried. That was our position, that if we got 11, we'd take a deal. And there may have been a little bit of TI involved if we could find a compatible user. We do have a few comps in the area, and they are superior, more in demand than this. You've already seen 310 Broadway, which is located one block north on Broadway, and that paid rent, when you look at it, is actually $10 as well. We have 305 Broadway, where we were getting $12. That's because we had a Starbucks in that building, and I say we because we used to be in it. And another building that I was looking at in our list, and I got to tell you, we didn't give you enough rents, because we got a lot more than this. There are numerous rents, and I don't know why we are giving you such a skimpy selection. That's our problem, our fault. But the neighborhood is a $10 to $12 neighborhood, and it's going further away towards the rivers of decline, because, you know, unlike houses, people don't pay extra for Riverview office. It is a reverse of perspective, which is why Assiniboine's become a great neighborhood for redevelopment. And there's been 2 large projects. The one project that I was speaking of in the questioning is the one that was built next door to the site. And on our page 2, you can see a picture that this is obviously a Google Earth picture of the construction that occurred during the period. What happened during construction, the building was excavated. They discovered that the foundation for the neighboring buildings was in their land. Now, technically, they could have tried to have it removed, which would have meant the building gets demolished. There were some legal blockages to that, what they called a prescriptive easement, which made it difficult. So the trade-off was that the owner, the developer, thought to use the land in the front for some hoarding while they were constructing their building, and they did a foundation workaround. But we have a risk level here of a foundation that strays over the lot line. And I was involved in it firsthand. I helped them find counsel to defend it and deal with the issues. And that is a negative on your property side. And fortunately for this building, unfortunate for the neighbor, they did go bankrupt through their process, and the credit union who funded their money forgot about everything, and life went on. But it's still there, and it's still a problem. Another issue. Now, we had written on it on page 2, and this did end up going in the public record. So I'm not telling you anything that wasn't filed somewhere. Encroachment from neighbor. This is actually the opposite. They encroach in the neighbor's yard, and it's a legal issue. The location, briefly, the downtown has about 7, 8 different zones. Right now, the top earning zone is the shed area south of the arena, where True North is, getting big rents. Second will be Portage and Main, and then after that, things start to really get painful. There's an Ellis corridor, which does not Ellis corridor, St. Mary corridor, that has gets some benefits from those 2 zones. Further down is Broadway, which is dropped phenomenally. And you've heard about the vacancy at 310 not filled, Wawanesa moving out. The Canada Tax Center, 325 Broadway is gone. That will be converted to residential shortly. The vacancy lead caused at 305 Broadway when Colliers moved out. These are all chronic problems that aren't getting better. And as you get further towards the river, you're moving out of the zone that people want an office, traditional office in. So it is of interest for a user, not an investor, and the tenants aren't looking at it. The size of it is small. The fact it can't be demised, and what you get, you got to find a perfect 10,000 square foot user, and it's possible you could get a better rate. But the problem is we're not talking about waiting 5 years, 10 years to get the perfect tenant. You put it on the market, you got to find a number that you can lease it up in a few months. We had a year. We couldn't find a tenant for it. That was a bad time for tenants, but that's the problem. Vacancy is lower than others, and the reason why is we call this a class D, and it doesn't matter what people think it looks like, if it's pretty, if it has an impact. It's D in a marketplace. D for demand, interest from users. It's got a small floor plate and a poor location, and the big rated properties are going to be hooked up to the Skywalk system, and this one's blocks and blocks away. So if right now that's the best thing. I mean, it's winter in Winnipeg. That's the selling point. The B and C's got hit the hardest with vacancy, and these don't, because they tend to be priced at a point to stay full, which is why we recognize that and put a lower vacancy rate. They just have suffered less in COVID. And part of that is there's more owner operators in them. And part of that is that they price themselves at a point to keep full. So if vacancies rise, they drop the rents. They're locally operated. The local owners say, drop my rents. I want the cash flow. Whereas an investment owner in Toronto would just say, well, I'm going to wait until I get the dollar I want. And that's our business. The shortfall is a bit lower, I think, than the assessment model, because it's just based on the assessed value, which is lower, but due to its location and its ability to command a good rate. And we've kept it at 7.75, and you've heard the reasons why already on page 2. Now, I've inspected this property numerous times. I remember the first time I was in there was about 1989 to visit an ad agency, and after that, from 2007 onwards, to meet with my accountant clients there. And I forgot to say 310 Broadway. I have to always put this in. I first inspected in 1975 when I was a janitor, and I scrubbed every floor in that place. So our information is just firsthand, and although I've given you some anecdotes, this is a true reflection of the market and a true attempt to try to rent it that was unsuccessful. That's my presentation.
Thank you very much. Svetlana, any questions?
Yes, please. Open page number 9 of agent brief. You classify like class D this property,
Yes.
and it is chart from Johnson report, class D 4.8% vacancy, correct?
That's D's, yes.
No further questions.
That is D, but that's not, you weren't listening how we did it. We
No further questions.
Look at the sample size. I'll say it now or say it in summary. What does it matter?
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, I'll say it in summary.
Lynn, any questions?
I do not have questions. Thank you.
Gail, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you very much.
And I have no questions. Summary for either party, Svetlana?
No, thank you.
No?
So in summary, class D on the page referred to is only 962,000 square feet, which is a quite small sample size. And as I was saying earlier, we try to take them and blend them with the overall city rate of 9.9 to avoid falling into a trap of a poor sample size. And that's why we took 7.35.
That was my summation.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to, I thought I lost the documents. We've heard all the items scheduled this evening, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for moving it along. Much appreciated.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you. Good
evening.
night.
Aye.
Good night.